Hey y'all, Bloodwing here, back to bring some grumpiness to your internet. And welcome back to Redneck Radio. Been a while since I've been able to stream on a Tuesday. Here we are. And this is the live stream where you get an extra healthy side helping of, let's see, today of fried eggs and fresh biscuits. Because that's what I had for breakfast and it was good. Loved it. As you can see, I was able to start on time. I was afraid I might not be able to. But when they seen us out there trying to move cars, they helped. Not only did they have the power company have there's six trucks. I counted them while I was out there. Great big power trucks blocking us in. They have cones down on each end of our little stretch. I have said before that I live on a corner lot. Well, but we access our house from the side street, and they have that whole section of the side street blocked off. Now, we're the only ones that access from this side, but yeah, they got us all blocked off, coned in. I don't know how many trucks it takes to run line. Yet they're still working on what they started. What was it? 2 months ago, a month ago. Hey, Mama Minnie and Cynic, it's hard to listen to if you got it muted, dude. Hard to listen to if you got it muted. Hey, Clinton Whitaker, Shanti W, Kyler, Cynical Lindsay, Jen. I don't think she's paying attention. Necrosol, because I've tweeted her and she hasn't replied. But welcome to everybody. Amanda's out there. Hey, haven't seen you in a bit, Amanda. Green Thunder to Mighty. Hey, everybody. Hello. But I don't know how many trucks it takes to run line, but apparently it takes 6 of them. And they have, I wished I could have took a picture. You would believe what it looks like. Ah, there she is.
Oh, let me mute.
About pay attention.
There we go.
About time you paid attention.
Yeah, I'd actually just closed my Twitter like maybe 15 minutes before you said that, and I was like, oh, okay. So I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna open that up real quick and check that first, and then I'll respond because it would take me longer to type that.
Sure, yeah, I understand. But yeah, I'm just fussing about the power company out here. They got us all blocked in, and you guys are liable to hear some of the noises from the trucks because those trucks are noisy. I seriously don't know how many of them it takes to run this line, but apparently it takes a crew of about 12 and 6 trucks. Because that's what they've got right outside my house blocking us in. We cannot get in or out without them moving trucks.
Yeah, it's actually been a lot of in and out for us too. Alberta's kind of got a fleeing thing right now because people are kind of worried about their job security. So, I mean, there were people kind of moving anyway, but yeah, they're kind of nailing us this year for the carbon tax shit. And the cities aren't a problem. That's not really the big issue. I mean, if you have a big family, yes, it sucks because it adds an extra $300 to $400 to your bill, if not more.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you're able to afford that in the city, you're okay. But it's kind of more the farmers that you really feel bad for because most of them are still in the period of drying their grain, it's mostly done by now, I would imagine, but it's just most of their carbon tax goes towards the blow dryer.
Well, I get it. And Amanda, I get that too. I stream when you got to go get your kids. I get that because that's where my wife is off to. That's why she had to leave and why we had to get some trucks to move to get us. They were nice enough. They got out there, moved their cones, and I get it. We're the only people on this little stretch of road that access our house from this road. So they had it all blocked off. But, dadgummit, we've got to get places too.
Well, it's always going to be something they've got to be aware of. Because, in case of an emergency, that's really the big one, right?
Yeah.
It's one thing to oh, well, it's inconvenient to get around you or something. And, they'll move.
Yeah.
But like if you're in an emergency, like say you got hurt or your wife got hurt or something and you need to rush to a hospital, like they got to kind of take that into account.
Yeah. And one fellow was real nice. He ran ahead of my wife. He seen what we were doing.
Yeah.
He ran ahead and moved the cones for her so she could get out,
Yeah.
And I appreciated that. It was just a little bit of an aggravation. That's all.
Yeah,
Now,
we're kind of in a weird alley where we are. So like we had arguments in the past with people parking, and then also because of where it is, it's kind of the fire lane. That's the issue, and it's like they don't need as much space for the fire lane as they made it out.
Yeah.
But at the same time, though, people don't understand. Like, yeah, you still need to have room for like 5 or 6 trucks. You're not talking one truck. You're talking about 5 or 6. And
yep. RJ Banzo says, "Hey, Papo, can you pray my grandma pulls through? She's in the hospital." I will do, hon. I will.
Aww.
Yeah. Speaking of it, our family's had a little bit of a bad news. My uncle just passed away yesterday.
Aww.
I mean, not entirely unexpected. He was getting up there. He's about my dad's age, which makes him about 80 in that way. And he's suffered with what is that organ that it has something to do with your sugar? What is it?
Your kidneys?
No.
Liver?
No. Anyway, he's had cancer of that organ for quite some time, for years.
Okay, I wouldn't say
pancreas.
Okay.
Thank you, Cynical.
Okay.
Thank you. I can always count on my chat to know. Yeah, he's had pancreatic cancer for years.
Wow, though, actually, because especially for that one.
Yeah. So, he passed away yesterday.
Aww.
He was one of my favorite. In fact, I've talked about him on this channel. Some of you may remember. He's the one I call Chicken Charlie because he was so goosey and so jumpy. So one of my favorite uncles. And so he was 80 something years old, so it's not totally unexpected, but it still hurts. You're still going to miss him. So,
yeah.
But other than that, I do have good news, though, for those of you that enjoy my series, Redneck Track. If you haven't been paying attention, will premiere today after the stream at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time. So I did get that done. Actually got everything done in one day yesterday. Recorded the voiceovers, edited it, got everything done one day. Spent the whole day on it. So.
Well, that's good. I'm setting up to do an open Stardew multiplayer game. It's one of those things where like I kind of I have another one that I have open anyway, just because like when I do the Wexit streams, half the time I'm playing Stardew anyway. Mm-hmm. It's one of those things where like I don't really participate in the conversation. I'm more listening to what it is that they have to say, and then like if I have something to say, I'll jump in. But I just let them talk because they're mostly just talking about information, and then some people are voicing opinions and things like that. And it's just it's one of those things where I come back to the reason that I'm doing it, and it's just because I want people to know what it is that they're legit talking about, because there's nothing really serious that they're saying. Like some of it's wrong, like they've said stuff before that I'm like, I can call you on that and fact check you on it. But I don't have a problem with that because they're willing to do that. Like if you want to fact check them, they're more than willing to look into anything that you say. It's just that I know that the media doesn't portray them fairly like that. Like it's call people out for the things that they're wrong on, right? Fact check people when they're wrong about something, sure. But like they're not saying anything violent, they're not harming anybody. But like the left would make them all out to be just a bunch of crazy inbred rednecks, and like most of them are natives. A lot of them are from the native tribes up here. So for me, it's more like, okay, well, for one thing, they don't get a fair shake. From the side that wants things done from the native community, they really don't. Like, I mean, they're getting more of a fair shake because more conservatives are like, oh, wow, I didn't realize how silenced you were. Like, we all just kind of thought that like maybe 10% of you were on board with us, but it's more of a 50-50 split, if not more. So that's one of the reasons I want to let them have a say, because when you know that there's more of a market than that's been portrayed, you know, there's movement there for politicians, is all I'm saying, you know.
Right.
And I just want to give them that chance to do it legally, you know, without having to split apart the country. But I can't join in on that. You know, I'm not a politician. I don't really do the politics. Like I'm really grateful for Functional, because he looks up all these articles for me, and like, you know, I've had a few that I've looked at, but I don't really want to read them anymore.
Right. Well, it doesn't take much of politics for me to feel that way. I'm just like, I do got back to Redneck Trick real quick.
Yeah,
I've
sure.
got a favor to ask.
Sure.
I've been looking at my numbers, and they are down a little bit from what they were. Hopefully, that doesn't mean that people are don't like it anymore or tired of it. But you know, share it around. If you enjoy it, share it around. If people, you know, enjoy stupid humor, because you know, my humor is pretty silly. It's pretty stupid. I get that. But if they like that, you know, fill them in, because don't let the fact that it has to do with Star Trek dissuade you. You may not like Star Trek. It's not about, it just happens to be in the Star Trek universe. It's about this clueless redneck BJ Hickenlooper, and how he somehow, even though he's a moron, ends up winning the day at the end of it all.
You know what, Bloodwing? There's even a possibility when like the Redneck Trek ends, like you could even play it into an arc thing if you wanted to. Like,
I've thought about it.
You know, like all of a sudden he beams himself up in the middle of like Dino Island, and you're just like, fuck.
Although I think that maybe my grumpy old man persona might be better suited to art. I don't know. I have thought about it.
You're great as a Star Trek person too, though. Like it's like I said, there's kind of, honest to God, there would be rednecks in space. Let's be real. It's not really it's not
sure
really.
They would. We'd probably be all the mechanics.
You know, because everybody has their fair share of their version of a redneck. That's just a term for it, you know. So there's bound to be a plan of like alien bulls or something that's a rancher planet or something, you know, like they're like, hell, that doesn't exist.
right, you know, or you know, redneck backwoods stripper bars in space,
right?
The Dewdrop Inn.
I don't know why, but the name Betsy Klein is in my head. But if you ever decide to, you know, name one of those ladies Betsy Klein, that would be funny.
There actually is a new crew member. She's not going to be on screen for a while. But my new ship, because I told you all that I'd be getting a new ship this episode, has an extra space for a bridge crew, but I've only got limited number of space in my away crew, you know, the away teams. So she won't be on screen for a little while, but yeah, there is a new crew member that I will be introducing in the next couple of episodes. Not this time around, but soon. Michael Liners is just jumping in real quick to wish you a great stream. Have a great day, Bloodwing. And thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Hope you have a good one too, though.
Yep. But yeah, be on the look. I know this is not its regular day, but I promised it, and I wasn't able to make it by Sunday. So this is the best I could do. So today at 5:30 Eastern Standard Time, an hour and a half after the stream ends, be on the lookout for that. It'll be premiering. The next episode, hopefully, will be back on track on Sunday afternoons. I hope. But my schedule rotates every week, so I just never know when I'm going to be off and what I'm going to be able to do. So
yeah, it's real life too. It's like I'm glad for you though that you got your job and stuff, but
yeah,
then figuring out like YouTube times.
Well, there's time. I'm thankful for it too, and I do enjoy the job for the most part. There's parts of it I don't like, obviously. And the part I really don't like is it hurts me physically terribly because I'm 4 years out of shape. You know, I haven't worked in 4 years, so it's going to take a while. But yeah, it's a bit hard to figure out. I don't want to lose my YouTube channel too. I want to keep that going. So even though it's just a part-time job, it's a little tricky working everything out sometimes. But I'll get it done. I'll get it figured out. Zombie Teddy, Redneck in Space, question mark, that TV show Firefly. I just got in here. No, I was talking about my series, Redneck Track. And if you're interested in checking it out, it will be premiering a little bit later this afternoon at 5:30 Eastern time. So if you like stupid dad jokes and silly humor, check it out. Yeah. But anyway, I'll get off that because
No, you're fine. It was just I went to say hi to J Wolf, and it's one of those things where with YouTube and me and having to click on it every time I want to chat to someone, but I haven't done it in a few seconds, and you start typing and you realize that you haven't done that, and so your keyboard just starts popping up shit. And you're like, stop it! No, stop it!
Yeah.
I just did that. So that's what that pause was. It would just be like, okay, stop it.
BG says, don't worry about it too much. Many of us are fans of Monkey, Scribe, Satsu, and Polly. We put up with their inconsistent content. Yeah, I get it. I get it. I do. But that kind of thing, as I've mentioned before, I don't know if you'd call it regimented, what you would call it. Control freak really is what it is. I like things to be on the same day, the same time, all the time. And if they're not that, my head wants to explode. I don't like that. Well, and unfortunately, I haven't been able to be that way since I went back to work. So
you'll figure something out too. It's just, it's once you get something that's like concrete, or like even just a rhythm of a whatever it is they put you in for shifts.
Yeah. Well, I won't work every Sunday because it's supposed to be rotating. Now I've worked the last two Sundays in a row. That's really not supposed to happen. It's supposed to be like, okay, I work this Sunday, and then that person works Sunday next week, then that person, and then that person, and then, 4 weeks down the road, and then it gets back to me. But so.
Are they rotating holidays or days off or something? Because that's the only time that I would see them doing something like that when it's outside the norm is literally for that reason.
Yeah. Well, it's a tobacco shop. Every employee there is part-time, even the assistant managers. The only one that is not is the manager.
Yeah.
And we're supposed to all rotate on the days that we have to work, specifically the weekend days. And by weekend days, they consider Friday, Saturday, Sunday, because that's their big days. I mean, you wouldn't believe the business we do on Fridays. But we'll see how it works out. We'll see.
I'm just saying that might be something that's going on, and they just haven't really told you or something. Because like for me, my jobs were always part-time. Like it kind of became a thing when I was hired. Like you really had to apply to become full-time, even in my jobs. Mm-hmm. And now you can't get anything other than part-time unless you get a way in with like management or something.
Well, but my manager's already talked to me. Listen, if you want management, I'll put a word in for you. And I've been there, 3 weeks? I'm like, well, I appreciate that. And I may hit you later, but right now, part-time, because that's all I was looking for. In the shape that I'm in and my circumstances, I figure I better start out part-time. And if I need to, from there, work back up to full-time. Because I've sat around in a chair for 4 years.
yeah, because that's a commitment. Because that's usually Monday to Friday.
Yeah.
But well, I mean, at least you've got some confidence with management. Like that's always good to keep. I'm not much different than you. Like if I start off as part-time, I'd rather be at a job for a while first before you start really getting me into management. Not saying you couldn't do it earlier, but it's just so you have the feel and you build up the stamina too.
Yeah, well, that's physically is my biggest problem right now.
Yeah,
That's my biggest problem.
That's what I'm thinking when you say that. It's just you know, it takes a little bit to build up that stamina, and part-time is a really good way to do it, because you're probably still getting like 3 to 4 shifts, if not more.
Yeah.
It's just they do them short, or they do like a couple long ones, but over time.
Basically what I do are 6 to 7 hour shifts.
Yeah.
It depends on whether it's a weekend or not, on how long it is. But that's without breaks or lunch hour. That's straight through.
Yeah.
You know, I can sit down when I need to, and you know, try to eat when I can in between customers, that kind of thing. But you know, I work like 3, maybe 4 days a week. Basically, I was just looking at our schedule, and actually I'm getting more hours than the assistant managers are. I don't know if she's feeding me or what, but I don't know. But yeah, we'll figure it out. I'll get it all worked out. It'll take a little while. It might be a little wonky for the next couple of weeks yet, but
yeah, I think my first one was my first real job, and that one was at Safeway. But that was the Canadian version of Safeway. It wasn't the, I mean, run by the American version. Because my understanding is American Canada was owned by the same guy for like years. But my first job, we had to join a union up here. Like you couldn't work with Safeway unless you were part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was because of the American side. I'm not really sure. But
probably.
All I know is that I had been working 14 days straight, and I had asked to have Boxing Day off. And then like, so they were like, well, you had Christmas off, so like you've had a day off, so like you should be fine. I'm like, okay, I just worked 14 days in a row. I booked this day off well in advance. You've had every holiday off for the last 2 years. I just want a day off, right? And I was like almost in tears. So my dad put her on speakerphone. It was like, listen, lady, you don't get to bully my daughter into going into work when you know damn well that the union isn't going to back you on this one. You know, it was one of those things where she had prior seniority, and she abused it all the time.
Right.
And I'm like this nice girl, and for the most part, I wanted the hours anyway, because extra money is extra money. But like after 2 years, you know, you kind of want to have a day off.
Right.
And I had cousins in from New York. Like they're my half cousins. Like they're half black, half white. And I didn't understand that until I was much older, because I'm looking at these pictures of my cousins with afros, and I'm like, how the hell did they do that? And you know, so it was my first time meeting them as an adult, because the last time I'd seen them I was 8 years old, you know. So
were they pictures out of the 70s? Because you know, we white people did have afros in the 70s.
I would say for that, yeah. It was probably late 70s for those shots.
That was a thing. That was a thing. Trust me. I never had one, but lots of people did.
No, she was. It's actually one of those things. Like it's one of those things you can't really predict with kids who have mixed parents, because when they started off as children, like they were much darker skinned. Mm-hmm. But now you look at both of them, and you would peg them as being native or something, just because the tint has gone that way.
Right.
You know, but the hair still, you know, they still have the hair issues, and you know, I don't know about most of that stuff. I don't ask. It's just my cousin is super pretty, and she's always been super pretty. Like regardless.
Trust me, if I'm out in public with you know, because half of my grandchildren are half black. If I'm out in public with one of them, I get looks like, "What are you doing with that black kid?" Because they're mine. That's why.
Well, here's the thing. Like, this is one of those things that like kind of blows my mind when people talk about this kind of thing. So yet again, like this Christmas, I'd booked off, and we'd gone to Edmonton not Edmonton. It was Lake Louise, which is kind of a big place in Alberta. Like it's really fancy. It's very much like the English kind of castle kind of build. And it's kind of a ski resort town, but it's a parliament building.
Uh-huh.
And we went there for this Christmas, and the whole family is decked out. So like we're very old school Scottish, you know, in how we were raised and how my grandfather wanted his family to look and in appearance. And so we all were dressed really nicely, all fancy, my two cousins who were like I said, at that stage they like they were, you could tell that they were half black, but like now they look native.
Yeah, my grandkids, they're not dark. I would say they have skin about the color of coffee with milk in it, with
Yeah.
creamer in it. Kind of that color. Cynical says most of the mixed race people I've seen are super attractive, especially if they're half black, half white. And I agree. Of course, I might be a little prejudiced. I don't think I have any ugly grandkids.
I might be too, like maybe I'm biased because I love my cousins, but it's just I think they're beautiful people. And my male cousin, it's hilarious because like he came out with blue eyes. It's one of those things where like you don't really want to question that one.
Right.
Because blue eyes are very specific. But like he'd go in to get his dreads done, and this is in New York too, and they called him the Black Jesus because of these bright blue eyes. And then he'd go and meet my brother, and my brother wasn't as heavy at the time either. Like 10 years is a long time for people to change.
Right.
But my brother was probably 250 at the time, so still a big guy, but more muscle than fat. So like it was like, okay, well here's Thor and here's Black Jesus.
Jen, I'm going to leave you for about 30 seconds. I started before I went out to move cars. I started a pot of coffee, and I really need a cup of coffee, and it's now done. So I'm not even going to turn off my mic. I'm just going to run in the kitchen real quick and fill my cup. I will be right back.
I do not blame him. I was one of I have a Keurig right behind me that luckily my headphones stretch just enough for me to go and get my coffee. And I'm cheating right now because it's hot chocolate season, so I don't even add any sugar because hot chocolate has more than enough sugar in it. And I just put that in, and I have a little cheap poor man's mocha. It would be better with steamed milk, obviously, but it is life. You are not wrong, mom of many. Without coffee, many people would not survive as long as they do. And that's not me being violent. I'm just saying. There are people that I believe should drink coffee before they drive out to go to Tim Hortons to get their first cup of coffee.
Oh, of course. I just walked by the window, and every one of them trucks except one are now gone. After my wife's already left. Of course.
I don't really have any embarrassing stories about Bloodwing, BG. Like most of my stories with Bloodwing are on streams. So like he's either told you his embarrassing stories or you've seen them online.
Yeah, I've got plenty of embarrassing stories. I mean, you don't live to be my age as a wild redneck and not have some embarrassing stories. I mean, my people invented the term "hold my beer." Come on, or "Hey y'all, watch this."
So,
Mama Minnie, you get that from me. I'm afraid. I'm sorry. She says other people need me to have my coffee.
I know, right? So just to answer Clinton, the thing with the best coffee, it's really based off of what you really like. And like they come from different regions. So like some people like the dark roast because they like that little bit of bitterness to it. Dark roast has less caffeine in it. So a lot of people like they get that more mellow buzz that lasts, like they feel it lasts longer. Whereas like an espresso shot, it's a shock roast. Like they roast it really quickly, which is why it retains more caffeine, which is why you get a lot more buzzed off of it. But you also end up with a little bit more of a darker flavor to it. It's not supposed to be bitter. If it's bitter, then you've been served dead shot.
I like a good medium roast Colombian coffee. That's my preference. Yeah. Now I will make it strong. I'll put in a little extra in there when I make my coffee, but I like a good, because I just like the flavor of the medium roast better. But I'll drink all kinds of coffee.
So for that one time when I did work at a Starbucks, which didn't last very long because they really don't pay you a lot. I kind of understand why some of those kids are really pissed off half the time, but it's just unfortunately you work for a company that needs the money to work. Like
Right.
Starbucks has been under more often than it's been over, because they do a lot of transporting of their beans. Like they do a lot of manufacturing with their beans, and they do a lot of fair trade. That's not cheap. It's not cheap. You're not getting the generic beans. I mean, and not everybody likes their beans because they're so dark. Like they only have one light roast and like everything else is a dark roast. So, but when I was there, my favorite one was a white mocha Americano because I had this thing at the time where I liked super bitter and I liked super sweet. And it was just those two things at the same time. So the white mocha was just basically an espresso shot. Actually, it's a double espresso shot with hot water, and then it's a pump and a half of white. It's a white chocolate syrup, and you just mix them together. So white chocolate is super sweet. That's why I like it with bitter things. Like it between the two of them, they just kind of do their own little umami blending. Right. But that one, if I'm drinking that one, that's like the first coffee I have in the morning because it's still a sugar shot, like, so I knew kids who would just drink that kind of coffee all day. After that point, I would usually go for the blonde because, like I said, it's the only one that they have that's a mild roast. I don't mind mediums, but their mediums are dark. Yeah. And dark, like with dark coffee, I end up having to put sugar in it. I don't like it that dark. And the thing is I'm trying to cut back on sugar. So anything like, I'm not doing any more white mochas for a long time.
Mama Minnie says, my boyfriend is an old man and uses half and half. So we're currently drinking coffee with a hint of cherry flavor to it. Well, what do you expect from a hobbit? Her boyfriend is, he's vertically challenged. In other words, he's short. And J-Kid and I both call him Hobbit all the time.
Well, I mean, it's one of those things. Like I try not to judge the people who like the pumpkin spice because it's like if it was a muffin, if it was like a coffee-based muffin with like a pumpkin muffin, I wouldn't have an issue with it. But heated up in a cup, it's like the eggnog version that they do. I'm like the idea of it curdling. Oof. Just bothers the crap out of me.
Yeah. I've only been to the coffee place you were just talking about. Boy, my brain's terrible. Yeah.
Psycho Rick. It's the bitter, it's not it's not like coffee is a person. I'm not drinking a person when I'm drinking a coffee, I don't like it that dark. But I'm pretty sure if I were to drink a black person, they'd be more salty. I'm just saying.
Yeah. Starbucks. I've only been to Starbucks one time.
Now you should clip that one.
Yeah. I've only been to Starbucks one time, and it was while we were waiting in the airport. We were actually going to go visit Mama Minnie when she was living in Arizona, when she was stationed with the Marines. And I said, I need some coffee. I'll check it out. And they had Yep. Psycho Rick. Yeah, I knew that was Pat. How you doing, buddy? But I thought, I've heard about this Starbucks. I'll go check it out. And they said, well, what kind do you want? I said, I just want black coffee. Well, we have what kind of coffee, Colombian or whatever. And I'm like, well, I don't care. Do you have anything you got a recommendation? And they recommended some African freaking coffee. And when I drank this, I was like, this is not coffee. It was sewer water is what it was. Oh. I think they dipped it out of the toilet. It was terrible.
Okay.
I've never been back since. No. Don't like it. Don't want it. Now I did stop in when we got there. They had on the way there, I think it was in Atlanta, they had some Seattle's Best coffee. They were slightly better, but still I wasn't. My opinion is if you're a real coffee drinker, you're not going to like these coffee places, Starbucks and so forth. Just don't. And yes, Cryptic, it was Yuma. But ugh. Mm. Mama Minnie, and to your back to your comment a while ago, how your boyfriend gets it rough. Well, in our family, he's got to toughen up. So it doesn't he? And you know it. So yeah, it's good for him. I guess my nieces call him, or my granddaughters call him Uncle Stinky. So
Actually, cynical Lindsay, Seattle's best up here is I think it's a Husky Station coffee, or it used to be Max. I know they switch hands back and forth, but that one was actually really good. It was one of those times where, that convenience store coffee beat out a lot of places. Like,
yeah, around here where I live, the best coffee is at the gas stations with the convenience store in them.
They did a really good job, and it was just like, you know what? Sometimes something simple is just that easy. You know.
Thank you, Cryptic, for the donation. I drink coffee like a pansy, lots of sugar and cream. Why am I not surprised, you panty waste?
See, now the one that got me was 7-Eleven. So their basic coffee's good. Even their dark coffee's not bad either. Like I said, like I don't drink it all the time. I don't necessarily want to do it like too dark all the time. But their regular coffees were pretty good. Their Kona blend was pretty good. I think they had another Kenya blend and something from South America, like a Colombian.
Yeah.
But then you've got all the flavored ones. Well, the thing with the flavored ones is like they always have that aspartame aftertaste. And it took me a really long time to realize what that was, because it's a fake sugar. Like a fake sugar, you can make it taste like, caramel if you want, or if you want like a chocolate or whatever you want to add to a coffee, or a hazelnut. And it was just like all you could taste was the aspartame with this like fake sugary flavor.
Duck Dog says my favorite coffee is the local guy that wood roast. Ooh, that's the reason I was going, I would try that. Ooh. Yeah, absolutely. There's a brand of coffee, and they actually have a YouTube channel. They're a group of veterans, and it's called Black Rifle Coffee. And if you've never seen their advertisements, they are nuts. Their advertisements are absolutely bonkers. They get in like these shooting matches, shooting at one another, beating each other up over the coffee, and say it's crazy. You just got to look it up. It's called Black Rifle Coffee. I've thought about maybe trying to order some of that. But
yeah, it's a lot of my youth is working in convenience stores. Like, between 28 and not youth. God, 28 is old to be still working at a convenience store, but it was a good job. I got paid really well. I had overnight shifts. I was comfortable. I paid my own rent. I had money to buy anime shit, which is not cheap in Canada. So I was happy and content. But, it was one of those things where all the sugary drinks at that time, like it was so fake that I'm really glad that I never really went that route. Like, I'm not saying I don't eat bad. I do. It's just I don't eat a lot of good food. I eat the odd little bad thing, and then I don't eat for the rest of the day. Like today, I've had a cup of Slim Fast and 2 coffees.
Yeah. Yeah. Speaking of that, you mentioned you had the overnight shift. This job that I've got is really the first time I've worked in retail, unless you count. When I first got married, I worked in a gas station. Now, we're not talking a convenience store gas station. This is back in the days where the guy come out and washed your windshield and check your oil and that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. But it's brought up something to me because I've become more aware, because we're right next door to a bar, and we're not in the best. We're here. It's here in my neighborhood, a bunch of meth heads and drunks and stuff. So you start watching people that don't look quite right, like, okay, are they going to try to rob me, kind of thing. Mm-hmm. And that's not the most comfortable feeling. I'm not used to that. So far, it hasn't happened, of course, or y'all would have known about it. But if it does, I'm like, here you go. Here's your money. You want me to open the safe? Here, take that too. It ain't mine.
So I think that's why I burnt my bridges with 7-Eleven, because my first job, my first store was great. It was actually probably my first introduction to a gay person, because my boss at the time was head queen, and he was great because he had a really good sense of humor, and he was really good with the staff. He actually cared about people, so you were never alone on a night shift. Like, you always had one other person. Sometimes if it was like a shipment day, you would have a third person just so like people could rotate to get the work done. And he was great. And he left that store because he bumped up, and I ended up leaving the store afterwards because the management change was bad. So I changed stores, and the lady at this place, so this is in the Northeast, near Forest's Lawn, near their end of 17th Ave, which is really not a good area of town. And they wanted me to work a night shift all by myself. And I'm just sitting here like, okay, so you do realize that there's a certain law that's in place in Canada, especially in our province, where you can't leave a person alone. And the reason is because a girl was forced to work a night shift at a Subway, and she was shot in the head. And that wasn't a good area.
Yeah, it can happen anywhere. BG, no, not a Walmart grader, although I do get that reference. My kids all tell me that I am Walter.
So like, bad stuff can happen, but like, it's also like, you got to think like, this is Canada, right? So like, I mean, we're not safe, but we're still a hell of a lot safer. I'm just saying, we don't really have the population to back quite that much. But, even if that wasn't the case, like, we have more knifings than we do, shootings for the most part. It's not like it's easier to get a gun out here. It's just more unusual for people to have one.
Right.
Most people who have guns are hunters. Like, they're...
Yeah, and I live in a neighborhood where I guarantee you 9 out of 10 houses have a gun in it.
So there's a huge cultural difference. It's not to say that there aren't bad people with guns, because bad people will have whatever they want.
Oh yeah,
that's just how that is. So like, I'm looking at this lady and I'm just like, okay, so I'm 30. I mean, I'm not young, but I'm not old. And you want to put me in an area where, like, even with a person, there were a couple times where I'd be ringing the bell just so the guy in the back would come out and just watch, because, like a group of guys would come in, or a group of like drunk people, or like, I kind of, at that point, I kind of had a better...
If I hit the panic button every time a drunk person come in, it'd be on constant push because we're right next door to a bar.
It's the level of drunk.
We actually share a wall with the bar.
Yeah, like, it's the level of drunk where I'm ringing that bell, Bloodwing. Like, I've my first store was on 17th Avenue Southwest. So that one is actually it's about 4 to 5 blocks of bars and pubs and dance floors, and quite close to the gay area too. So you got those guys too. But the difference is, we were in an area that was surrounded by bouncers. Nobody was so drunk that like you didn't have people with them. This area is more shady. Like, I'm saying, when these guys were coming in, they were at a level of drunk where I would be calling a bouncer.
Yeah. We do have a panic button. In other words, it's that button you push that automatically alerts the police, the silent alarm.
Yeah.
It's right below our cash register, but we're told not to touch it until the criminal or the robber has left.
That's a different that's a different panic button. Yeah. I'm not pressing that one. No, not for cops, not for that. No, that's just the buzzer to the back door, that, to the back room, that lets my coworker know that maybe just come out and give me a hand. Like, these are the type of guys that are a level of drunk, and girls too. Like, I'm just saying guys overall, but girls too. Where you're knocking everything over, where you're belligerent, where you're causing fights, like, that's what I mean when I say, like, something that one person alone would have problems with.
Yeah, so far I haven't had any real, I've just had people being smart butts, just being just grumpy, so nothing more than that, like, okay, well, whatever. Trust me, they got really grumpy today because a huge part of our income, our revenue comes from selling lottery tickets. And when my lottery printer broke down and wouldn't work, there were lots of people not happy about that. And here I was there by myself and had never messed with that printer at all, ever. But I did get it figured out.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I've learned living where I have. Like I said, like there's areas of town where like it wasn't bad, but it wasn't good either. It's just one of those things. Like when I was working at the first 7-Eleven, like I made friends with all the bouncers. Like
Right.
anyone I knew who was a bouncer, like I tried to get their name. Sometimes if they came in and they helped me out or something, I'd give them a free coffee. We had that allowance. Like we were allowed to give out 2 coffees to friends.
Yeah.
As long as you didn't abuse it. And I didn't, I would tell my boss, hey, just so I gave coffee to this guy for this reason. And he was like, yeah, do it. Because any kind of free help that you get from people who are willing to who are actually trained to deal with that kind of shit, you do that. It's the same with police officers. We had a policy that like if you were a police officer, you got a free coffee. There was no ifs, ands, or buts. Like anything else you had to purchase,
Right.
But the coffee was just like, you know what? Just you stopping in the store gives the presence of like, listen, don't start stuff right now.
Right.
And it's a peace of mind. And even the better location, like they'd been robbed twice, and we're trained to deal with that. Like we don't keep cash in the drawer past like, breaking maybe a 50 during the day.
Right.
And you can take out more for 100, but that's only up until a certain time of the day. And then after that, you're down to,
well, we've been robbed just a couple of weeks prior to me going to work there. Mm-hmm. Some young punk decides that it was a good idea to grab, lottery scratch-offs.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're aware they come in like a big case with about 30 different kinds in there, and they're on the counter. He decides to reach up on the counter, grab that whole entire case and try to run off with it. Now, he didn't get very far because it's heavy. But we have been robbed. I mean, in one way or another. I don't know that they've ever been robbed at gunpoint or anything like that. But if it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
Thank you, Cryptic, for the donation. I won't rob you guys anymore. Promise. Uh-huh.
Well, the real late night shifts, like they really they drop you down to $20 in your till. Like you don't carry more than $20 at any time in that till. Maybe an extra like $8 and change if you're lucky.
Well, we're supposed to keep a $150 drawer. That's what we start with.
Yeah.
And our system actually will warn you, hey, you need to make a drop. It'll pop up a little thing on the screen.
Yeah.
But we don't always drop as much as it says because, like I said, we do a lot of lottery business. So if somebody wants to cash in like $100 winner, we try to keep a little extra money there so that if we cash that in, it's not going to kill us.
So this is an old machine for 7-Eleven, but it's one of those things I might point out just for you guys to look into. But what the cash thing that we had, we could put in rules in it that would drop. So like you could keep your till with less money, but if you had somebody come in with a winning ticket, because we handled lotto too, like there, to a certain extent, you couldn't cash in that much, or you had to wait for the machine to reload so you could cash out a little bit more. But we would, because we were kept to a bare minimum for, like I said, it's just a robbery prevention. So if somebody comes in and robs you, you're just like, you know what, here's the $40 in my till. The company doesn't care about the money. They'd rather that I not die, because that's a hell of a lot.
I honestly don't care what the company thinks. I'd rather I not die. So yeah, you can have all the money. I don't care. I ain't gonna try to stop you.
It's one of those things. It also breaks the habit for a lot of staff members to fight back. Like it's one of those things where like it's not really worth it. It's not really you know.
The only way I'm gonna fight back is if they personally accost me.
Yeah.
If they come at me personally, then I'm going to punch them in the throat. But otherwise, take it.
It makes it so much easier when you're like, oh, there's $20 in my till, and you're like, go for it, buddy. Have at her. Yeah. It makes it easier for you, but like I said, with the drop system, like, it does the same thing. Like it gives you a prompt. Okay. Like you've got this much in your till, you should probably do a drop now. And then you'll bundle it up and you drop it. And there's like buttons on there that'll give you change. So like you've got your like, back when we had pennies, there was pennies. There's like dimes, nickels, quarters, the loonies, the toonies, and then you had 5, 10s, and then 20s. So the 20s were the ones for your drawer. And then we had one that was specifically for lotto. So that one had like $50 bills because honestly, we just want to get rid of those.
Yeah, the liquor store here, the liquor stores tend to keep their lottery and their other money separate. Now we do not. They all come out of the same till. But Jen, you know, you never know where this stream is going to go and so forth. But there is one constant in this stream that you can always count on. And what is that?
Piddle?
I've got to go to the bathroom. I didn't make it an hour. So if anybody said 50 minutes, they got it. And if you would just kindly try to keep it going for just a couple minutes, I'll be right back.
All of a sudden, I have this urge to make pirate jokes. I don't know why. I was like, Piddle. And then I was like, he was like, yeah, I got to go to the bathroom. I'm like, oh, are you floating your way to the bathroom, are you? We got to get you a pirate hat. And you can be like, ahoy, sailor. I functional. Loonies and toonies. What are they? Money or cartoons? Money and cartoons. It's just easy currency if they're coins, apparently. They're easy to lose. That's for sure. Another thing to burn holes in pockets. I'm from Alberta, Clinton. It's not that I don't appreciate his attention because that's cool and all. But I'm all the way over in Calgary, so I'm gonna sing for you. Sing what? It's sorry your day's been hard. I hope things go well for your grandma. I mean, yeah, that's all I can say. Toonie. I know, right? I was like, out of all the names that they could come up with, they went with Toonie. There's so many other animals. I mean, we went with the loony because, like, it's based off the bird. Baby Shark. I've never actually listened to that one. It's one of those ones that it keeps getting brought up, and then people start playing like the first little clip to it, and then I'm like, oh well, it stopped. So I've escaped it somehow. Yep, pretty much. It has a loon. They're pretty birds too. They're also really creepy because the little noise they make when they're calling to each other, like, "Hey, I'm over here, man. Yeah, oh, I'm over here. Yeah, can we meet up later? Yeah, that's good because we got to make some babies at some point. We're like often on the endangered species because we don't do that often, apparently." Tony. Because we have no imagination, pretty much. That's basically what Tony is.
Okay, I'm back.
Yay!
There is one thing. There is one thing I did want to take a minute to talk about, and it's a current topic, and it might even be a little controversial. I don't know. I might regret bringing it up. I have no idea. I'm a little out of the loop, so I don't know how people are actually feeling about certain things, but you all know that I've mentioned before that one of my guilty pleasures is watching music reaction channels.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and one of my favorite channels. If you've ever watched any of the music reaction channels, you know that they're kind of divided into two camps. There's the one that you can tell that they are real. They are seriously listening to this music for the first time. And if you're not aware of what a music reaction channel, it's usually some young kid, but not always some young kid. And a lot of times it's a black kid listens to some classic rock tune, supposedly for the first time, and reacts to it live.
Yeah.
And I enjoy some of that, but it's kind of divided into two camps. There's the ones that you can tell they're being for real, they're honest. And then the ones that play it up. Oh my God, this is the best thing I've ever heard in my life. Oh, that are just obviously going way over the top for views. Mm-hmm. I don't like those. But I've got a few channels that I do like. Lost in Vegas is one of them. Those guys are very honest about what they like. And there's another channel that I really like. This by a guy called Soul Train Bro. He's a black gentleman. I'm guessing in his 40s. I'm guessing. He's Canadian, but he served in the American military. I'm not sure how that works, but that's what he did. He served both in the Army and the Navy. When he got out of the Army, he joined up to the Navy. So anyway, he's really kind of quiet, soft-spoken, but he gives very thoughtful, insightful reviews of these songs that he's hearing for the first time, because he was raised up on soul and hip-hop and all that, right? Well, he just put out a video today saying that he's going to shut down his YouTube channel.
Aww.
And the reason being is Kappa. Kappa has him scared that he's going to get fined and whatnot. And I left him a comment saying, look, I respect your decision and I understand it, but I'm pretty sure, because I had to do it with Redneck Track uploading it today, that if you set your videos and your channel, you can set your entire channel as not targeted at kids, because he was interpreting it as being kid friendly. It's not as much kid friendly as being, is it targeted at kids? Is that the target you're trying to reach? If you set it as not targeted at children, you should be fine. That's my opinion from all the research I've been able to do on it. But I see him and I see other people getting scared about this, and he's the first one I've seen say that he's actually going to shut down his channel, and I hate it because I really like that. Thank you, Cryptic, for your donation. Did he sell the 7 C's, young man?
Oh, that's because earlier when you went to the bathroom and I'd made that little piddle joke, and all of a sudden I was like, for some reason it got into my head, paddle, and then I was like, he's a pirate man. He's setting sail for the bathroom.
I think that's a YMCA reference there, or no, not YMCA, in the Navy. Yeah, in the Navy. But
that could also be a pirate joke.
yeah. But anyway, and it's not YouTube. This whole COPPA thing comes from the FTC, from the Federal Trade Commission. This time it's not YouTube doing it. They're just having to comply, and every creator has to go through this on their channel. It has to deal with being in compliance and setting whether or not it's targeted at children. Now,
you know what really bothers me about the whole thing, and this whole fear, is it targeted towards kids? Because you look at when the law came out, you look at what it says, and you're sitting there like, okay, I remember back in the day when the internet first started and this whole stink came up. They had nurses nannies on the internet, where you could direct what content your kids could watch, and they still have them. They still have them. I'm sorry, COPPA, but we have stuff in play. If you want people to keep ads from targeting children, then you have to teach parents how to use the apps, okay? Because they're easy to download. They're,
even beyond that, I've never made any bones about the fact that I'm a conservative. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm a conservative. So I don't like big government. I don't like the government in my business telling me what I can and can't access. I don't like that. But it's not just the apps. It's if parents just paid attention to what their kids are consuming and watching on YouTube. We really don't need the FTC in here telling us what to do, but we do. We got to deal with what is.
Just because it's an annoying cartoon doesn't mean that you shouldn't know what the cartoon is telling your kids. It's one of those things like my parents always watched at least a couple episodes with me, just so they knew what was actually going on in the stuff that I was watching. Did that mean they watched all of it? No, of course not. But they would catch the odd episode just so that they knew that okay, this is still appropriate for my kids. And honestly, it's like half an hour out of your time. You don't even have to watch the thing. You just listen in the background.
Yeah. Well, when Mama Manny and her kids were still here, and I often was babysitting them until late into the night just because she had to work and stuff. And like I said, I spent a lot of time in my chair, but I would get up and go by their room every once in a while and listen because they'd be in there watching videos and this, that, and the other just to hear what I would hear. And there were times that I'd heard stuff that, like, yeah, maybe not watch that. Okay. maybe turn that one off.
It's not a big deal. It's not a hard thing to do. It's one of those things, like, as a daycare kid, it was so easy. It was so easy. And I mean, it's still easy nowadays. Like, it's like you go to any school and you go on any computer, they're safeguarded.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean that the kids can't skirt around some stuff. Like, I hate to break it to you, but your kids are probably smarter than you on the internet at this point.
Yeah, like I said, I don't like big government. So I don't like the idea of the government telling me that, what I can and can't do. However, this is the way it is. The FTC has ruled this is the way it is. YouTube's got to comply. We as creators have to comply. But I don't think we need to get to overreact. Is what I'm saying. There's so many people out there overreacting. Oh my God, they could find me like, at the drop of a hat and this, that. And look, as far as I can tell from all the research that I'm doing, guys, seriously, as long as you're setting your content and your channel as not directed at kids, and that's exactly the way it's worded on the dashboard, not directed at children, you should be fine. Now, that's not to say that your ads might be limited or your search functions or whatever. I don't know how that's going to work, but as far as getting in trouble with the FTC and with COPPA, maybe calm down a little.
In all honesty, like, cutting out all the ads for children on most channels that are adult based, you're really not losing that many ads when you think about it. I mean, you might be like, okay, well, the adults that might be parents might be missing those ads, but the adults that are parents are going to be watching other shit that has those ads. It's not really going to be a huge loss in that sense.
Right.
So if they want to set that up, that's easy enough to do. Like, I mean, you want more like adult ads on your adult content anyway. It's always been one of those things with their algorithm that I just don't understand. Like, how hard is it to really categorize what targets you're looking for? Like, you would think that's what the advertisement companies spend money on for people that are staff members. Like, do your research. YouTube isn't that hard. It really isn't. I know it's a huge platform, but like, there are so many people out there who fill out surveys and shit. Like, yeah. I if I could make a little money on the sides doing it, they're just like, oh, well, you've only worked in customer service, so we really don't need your opinion on anything. I'm like, oh, thank you.
Yeah. Straight cis male says, just know your kids, be the parent. Exactly. I mean, and you don't have to sit on them 24/7 to do that. Just every now and again to pop by, see what they're watching, see what you're reading, see what you're looking at. It's just that easy. It really is.
But it ties into the same thing though with like book burners. Like, what do book burners really accomplish? Well, they accomplish stopping other people from reading. But you do it to kids too. Like, a lot of the literature nowadays has been tweaked so that it's more child appropriate for our kids because, one person was offended by one thing or another thing or another thing or another thing. And it's the same kind of book burning. In all honesty, it's something that I can't help but protest. I understand that there's some things that, okay, you might change the age group. You might change the conversation based off of what your kids are reading. But don't change the context of it. There's nothing wrong with starting a conversation, even if it's mildly uncomfortable. It's better to do that because that's how education actually works. That's how you get people to understand, okay, this is the compassion in this conversation. This is the understanding in this conversation. This is the knowledge I need to keep from this, but they do that. And now they're doing it to the internet. Like, I honestly think COPPA is just another one of those things that somebody behind the scenes is using to target more conversations. It's more book burning.
Yeah, and it's taking I think in a very real way, it's taking parenting away from the parents. Now, some of these parents out there deserve it because, as somebody mentioned earlier, there are some parents that are using their computer and
Yeah.
devices and stuff as babysitters.
Oh yeah.
I get that, but yeah. But I just wanted to bring it up. I didn't know how the people out there in chat felt about it. I have, since it's come up, I've quietly researched it. I've been quiet about it. I haven't even talked about it on Twitter. I've not talked about it, period, how I felt about the whole COPPA thing and everything. But from all the research I've been able to do quietly in the background, as far as I can tell, as long as you set your videos and your channel as being not
Yeah.
directed towards kids, you should be in compliance and have no worry.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm hoping that they'll use that. Like, I hope that they'll actually use the algorithm for it, because like I said, like, they should be able to categorize this stuff and not have this issue in the first place. Like, you know, if you're producing adult content, give them adult advertisement. If it's children stuff, you give them children well, I mean, even still, they shouldn't have advertisements on it. I think that's just all there is to it. Because like, if they don't want to target children,
yeah,
then that's just it. Like, sorry to the guys who make child content. I guess you're gonna have to.
Yeah,
rely on
I mean, you watch shows like Game of Thrones.
Mhm.
You know, there's people that advertise for that, and for The Walking Dead,
Mhm.
and those are definitely not children friendly shows.
Absolutely not.
You know, but they found advertisers on TV, so they should be able to find advertisers on YouTube for whatever your content, and even my content, like my Redneck Trek. We talked about it earlier. I don't cuss. You won't find any cussing in it or anything like that, but it is not directed at children. There are some adult innuendos and so forth within the content. My daughter, Mama Minnie, even asked me what I thought about my oldest grandson because he wants to watch them. He wants to support his papa, and he thinks his papa is funny. And I'm like, you know, that's up to you, but be aware there are some adult innuendos. Maybe they'll go over his head. You know, I don't know, but you know, be aware of that.
He's pretty much on the verge of preteen, basically, right?
Yeah. How old is he? 12?
Yeah.
I forget.
I think the last time
Don't ask me.
the last time you said, I think you said 12. So
yeah.
So like, I mean, within the next year or so, probably. Like, it's not like it's still one of those things that she should probably watch with him. Just in case the odd joke flies over his head. But he's still at the age where, like, most of the jokes he's going to hear from his fellow boys and girls is probably going to be darker than that.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. It's one of those things as a child that, you know, young at that young of an age, the internet did give me a lot more information than I was probably prepared for. It's just, you know, I never spoke about what I looked at with my parents. I wasn't dumb enough as a kid to do that. Or maybe smart enough as a kid to do that. I don't know. It was just, you know, I would read something and like put it on a shelf. That's the terming I use. If I didn't understand what the context was, I would put it on a shelf and look into it later when I was like, okay, you know what? I think this is not for me right now.
Yeah, Scrappy, it's The Walking Dead. TWD is The Walking Dead.
But boys your age, like your grandson's age, like, you know, if he's watching it with his mom and it's got you in it.
Well, basically where we ended up was, you know, I left that to his mom. It's your call. Yeah. You've seen episodes of it, so you know what it's like. It's your call. If you want to let him watch it, then fine.
Yeah.
But it's not directed at children. It is not.
No.
And my channel is not, period. No. Even though I don't personally curse, you know, people do on my streams, and sometimes subject matter gets brought up where we talk about rape or talk about other things. And that's not, kids are not the audience I'm trying to reach.
Yeah. I mean, the other thing too is a lot of the times, you know, people are watching it when it's premiering. And the thing with that is, I will be conscious of it if he's in the chat, and that's fine. If Mama Minnie is like, hey, my son's watching, I can tone down my jokes, but if your channel grows,
Yeah.
that's something she's going to have to be aware of, that, she might not watch it on the day that you're premiering it, because the thing with the chat is like, I can monitor what I say, and I will around a kid. It's not about censorship or anything like that. It's more about being responsible. But
that when this stream started, it was pretty much me and Alex, and he would constantly say, oh man, apologize to me. Look, I don't use that kind of language, but I refuse to censor other people. I couldn't if I wanted to, but I'm not even going to try. I refuse. You're an adult. You make your own decisions. You talk the way you want to.
Yeah.
And I'll talk the way that I want to. And no, you're right. You can't censor chat. It'd be pointless to even try.
Right.
If you wanted to, and I don't want to. So yeah, that's just, don't apologize to me. Look, I'm almost 60 years old. I've heard that language before, once or twice.
For me, it's more just I probably have gotten into the habit of abusing the words. Like, it was one of those things as a kid that I always thought that I would never do with that tone of language, was use it for just slang, because it defeats the purpose of the words, like the meaning behind the words. Honestly, it's lost at this point. Like, someone says the F word to you, say they F bomb you, it doesn't really mean what it used to mean. Like, it is still a curse, and it's still a mean thing to say, but the actual context isn't there when most people say F you. It really isn't. Yeah. It's really more of a punch at this point than it is any language meaning. And a lot of curse words are like that. And it was just, there are some words I probably F-bomb more than anything else, because out of all the meaning, out of all the curse words, it's the one that has the least amount of meaning to it anyway.
honestly, for me personally, off-color words just go in one ear and out the other.
Yeah.
I just really don't even hear them. They just go out the other, I don't pay any attention to them. So there's no reason to apologize to me for letting an F-bomb drop or whatever, because we're all adults here. And I try to explain that to Alex sometimes. Look, just because I personally have made a decision not to curse doesn't mean you have to comply.
Yeah.
That's not why I do it. That's just for me personally.
Yeah.
So. And, part of the reason I have 10 grandchildren. And if you're the habit of cursing, you're going to let it slip sometime. Mm-hmm. And I don't want my grandkids to hear me cuss. I just don't. I know they're going to hear it. I'm not stupid. I'm not naive. I know they're going to hear and see worse than that, probably in school. But I don't want them to hear it from Papa. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's also, for me, I just don't like using the same words all over and over and over again too. It's like if the only words that come out of your mouth are the same curse words, then it's just my personal thing for myself. It's just like, okay, well now
they do notice this. In fact, just this very morning when I was taking my granddaughters to school, they were talking about my YouTube channel, because all my grandkids are aware this is what I do, and they. One of them asked if they could watch, and I said, I don't know. You'll have to ask your mommy. And they said, but you don't cuss, Papa. Well, no, I don't, but there's more than that at play here.
Yeah, your grandkids sound cute, though.
Yeah, Mom Manny says all three of his kids use those off-color words too, but are normally respectful enough not to use them around Dad. Yeah, you guys do try. Once in a while, something slips, and your brother's more brave about it than you two girls. But there's been a few times I'm like, language boy. But yeah,
It's one of those things, like I keep daring myself, and one of these days when he's free, I do want to try and get him on one of our streams, just because like I know he's gonna say whatever the hell it is that he wants to say, but like I miss him and he's funny. I like his sense of humor, even if it is rough.
well, yeah, he gets his sense of humor from me. He's just not as what would be the right word? He doesn't sugarcoat it as well as I do.
And see, I don't have a problem with that. It's I'm okay with that because I do that too. I'm just nicer about it, I think, just in general.
Cynical says I watch my mouth around my mom. She's quite the prude. It's not that I'm a prude, and I used to cuss terribly when I was a teenager. I mean, there's nothing you all could say that I haven't said. But at one point, I made a decision not to do that. Now, what I don't agree with, and what cracks me up, and I've been in arguments with Randy Monkey about this before, is, well, when you use these other words, you're really thinking the cuss word. No, because if I was really thinking the cuss word, this is what I would say. When I say dadgum, I mean dadgum. When I say, moron, that's what I mean. If I say shoot, that's what I mean. I say what I mean, because it's a habit. And if you're in the habit of using those words, that's what's going to come out. My habit is using the other words. So that what comes out. I don't think about the other word and stop and think, no, I need to use this one instead. That's not what goes on. Mr. Dax says, I could say things you haven't said, especially since I'm a Finn. Well, I'm talking in the English language, for Pete's sake. Come on now. Let's be reasonable. But yeah. I mean, that's just the way it is. But anyway, yeah, I seen that video today from the guy that I follow. I actually was subscribed to his channel because it was one of the few that the guy was really sincere. He wasn't over the top. He might even bore some people because he's very quiet, very soft spoken, but he gave very thoughtful reviews of the song and very in depth, And I just hate that people like him that are maybe getting the wrong idea about this COPPA thing are going to be jumping off the format.
The other thing too is I don't know the scope of how much they're targeting right now. Like they're making it sound really, really serious, which is why I want to take it seriously. But it's another thing in the past with YouTube is like, yes, they screwed up the system. Yes, they've screwed over the creators. But they've had leaps and bounds where like they blow what's being said out of proportion. And that's one of those things with them that like, because I have a lack of trust with them, I don't know. And I think that's why a lot of people are so nervous, why so many people are leaving, just because they're so sick of the whole, we just want to know what it is that's being talked about. You know what? If you're having meeting with these guys, make it legal that you stream it. Because we want to know what they're saying. We want to know what you guys are saying. We want to know what's being said so that we know where we actually stand, because this isn't the first time. This isn't the last time. Like I think a lot of you guys, even if you weren't making content, everybody's been watching for at least 10 to 15 years. Let's be real. We've been here for a long time.
Yeah.
And not once since the original creators of YouTube has anybody really felt secure here?
Yeah. I'd have to say you're right.
So they're not making it easier for us in that sense, because yet again, like, I realize that when it comes to the business end, they don't need to tell us that. Honestly, unless you're making money with them, you're limited on what you have a right to ask for, because they're not set up like a typical company, It's a weird kind of pyramid when it comes to YouTube and how it runs and how people make money off of it. But it's not a traditional company, So like there's certain amounts of information that, yeah, honestly, we don't really have the right to that if they don't want to give it to you. But when it comes to the stuff where you have to decide, is it worth it to even stay with this company? Because if it's not, then let's build up on the other ones, because it's not going to happen if we don't. And YouTube needs to just be more clear about everything. They just need to be more open about what's being said and just stop making us guess.
Sean DW, I do have to agree with you at least somewhat. The people that are leaving are gun shy because YouTube has been getting consistent with its changes. That's true enough, and I understand. Like in the comment that I left this person, I understand and respect your decision, but I think that maybe you're blowing it out of proportion. You're making a knee jerk reaction here when it's really not called for. And hopefully he'll stop and think about it and not do it, because his channel is not small by terms of like my channel. I mean, it's like around 30,000 people, but
he's got something to be proud of. And I mean, even you have something to be proud of. It's not just about numbers. It's about, the time and effort and love that you've put into the content that you've made. Like, it's one thing for me to be like, oh, well, if I lost my original channel or my second channel, I'd be frustrated, but I would just make a new one because I don't have videos on it. I have streams. And not to say that I wouldn't be mad about losing the streams, but there's a little bit of a difference in terms of the amount of time spent on editing videos. There's a lot more thought, there's a lot more effort, there's a lot more time involved. Like, for me to lose a bunch of streams, it's like, oh, well, you know what? I can make another stream. That's
and straight Sith male. That's
did you just?
I seriously do. I get a car and I will drive it till it just won't run anymore, and then I get a new one. But I've had the same attitude about YouTube. There's been scares in the 3+ years that I've been on YouTube. There's been more than one apocalypse. There's been scares here and there, and people jumping ship and going over to whatever platform they're going over to, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to ride it until they tell me I can't anymore. I mean, that's just the way I'm going to be.
I'm still going to ride it here too. It's just I'm putting my feet into new locations as well, and that's something that everyone's recommending that you do anyway. Just because it's how to build your name, it's how to build your channel all around. And Scrappy, I would never go to Twitch, just because Twitch has always had its own problems. The closest thing to Twitch that I will go to is DLive, which I do get that they're technically a sister company, but they're still run by different dudes, so they have a lot less of the Twitch thoughts over there, which I respect, because it's one of those things where I don't like rule breakers. And thoughts are one of those ones that I believe are rule breakers. I don't care if you want to use your body a little bit to advertise your channel. Honestly, I've never given a shit about that. It's more when you're doing inappropriate stuff on.
Well, if I had a body that people wanted to see, I probably would myself.
Like I said, I don't really care. Like, it's advertise your stuff. I mean, women have been doing that for ages. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I would be honest about it. I would rather they be honest about it, just because it is a lot of, the thing is they're advertising to young guys, and that's a problem I have.
But yeah, by all means, spread yourself out, go to other platforms and so forth. Now, my only problem, I don't do that, which is probably one of the reasons I don't grow any faster than I do. But I'm old, and I've already got enough social media for me to keep up with now. I wouldn't be able to keep up with it. I just don't have enough time in the day.
Sure. But yeah, the other one I will probably look into in the future is probably BitChute. But yet again, it's one of those ones where, like, I'd rather wait a little bit more for it, just because I don't want to spread myself out too thin, and every time I get into a new streaming platform, I have to figure it out, and I'm a little bit slow that way. I'd like to take my time with that. But YouTube right now, I'm still trying to get the tail end of, like, as many groups as I can, try to get, and like I said, I don't know if it's going to be as bad as they're making it out to be. There's a good chance that they will find a way to use the algorithm to properly label your channel, to properly, direct whatever it is they need to direct to your channel. And honestly, like I said, it shouldn't be as big of an issue as they're making it out to be. It's just they have to. I don't know why they weren't working on it in the first place, to be honest.
Yeah, they had to see it coming. I mean, there was rumors of it out there before it hit, but yeah, I'm like, I really feel that this is going to work itself out. I don't think this is one of those things. There have been things in the past with YouTube that we deserve the outrage. You know, other than not liking big government, and this isn't really YouTube's fault. They have to be in compliance as well.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people are just getting, they're making a bigger deal out of it than what it needs to be at this moment. I think we as creators are probably safe as long as we label our stuff not directed at children.
And here's the thing, COPPA has to be careful too, because with what they're trying to implement, they have to be really careful too, because you guys have this constitution.
Yep.
And it's actually in your favor there. Like what they're trying to do, like, yes, they have to be careful with what rules they're bending too, because they are very close to being in trouble there, and they know it too. So like if they cross that line, they have the hugest battle on their hands. I'm just saying.
Yeah. And look at how many creators there are on YouTube. Do you think they're going to take everybody to court?
You know, that's
not going to happen.
That's called a class action lawsuit right there. And that's a colossal one. Like, that's not something that they're going to want to deal with. So, like I said, they have their own shit that they have to be careful with too.
And all you need, exactly. I just don't think that you showing us your boobs, well, my moobs, and I do have them, would have the desired effect. You're probably right. Even I don't like the sight of my moobs in the mirror. So it's a thing that happens to us guys after a certain age, even if whether you're scrawny or not, they sag. Gravity.
That's a pretty sad sandwich there, Shio. That's all I'm saying. Bread, butter, and cheese, hey?
Yeah.
At least get her a frying pan.
I've ate cheese sandwiches. They can be good, you know, if that's all you got. Cynicalist is exactly, Jen. That's why I'm hoping a bunch of big YouTubers here in the U.S. form a coalition and file a lawsuit against the FTC for a First Amendment violation. They are kind of pushing the edge. They are pushing the envelope a little bit with this. But I don't know. We'll see how it all turns out. I just feel like it's nothing for us as creators to get concerned about in the way of, oh my God, I'm going to be sued.
Like I said, I understand being pissed off because yet again, it's just more transparency that's not there. And they don't need to be that. They could be more transparent about it because most people aren't so dumb that they can't figure out what they're saying. You know, there are YouTube channels everywhere that run their business on explaining this shit, like that do the lawyer work, that do the talks and on all sides of the board. So like this idea that they can't be a little bit more transparent when it's not necessarily to do, like I said, with their business. It doesn't have to do with their business end. It does in terms of the work that they have to do for their algorithm. Maybe their diversity hire isn't working out for them the way that they thought it was, because this is something, like I said, like back in the mid 90s is when real internet kind of came out. Mm-hmm. And, they were already doing this stuff. They already had it figured out. Like, okay, well, this site isn't appropriate. This site isn't appropriate. Blah, 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 blah. They had that all figured out within like a 2-year period. Mm-hmm. And it doesn't take much to look at, okay, well, what did they do back then that worked? Let's reuse it and just figure out the current way of doing it. And just like, it's not a hard fix. They just have to do the fucking work. I'm left with little, I don't know. I'm not even an internet person, okay? I go to Cryptic or I go to Data, or sometimes I ask other people about like how to fix my computer and shit. But I still know that there are guys who spent a hell of a long time to get into college so they could work on computer programming, okay?
Yeah. So the long and the short of it is, folks, if you're afraid because of COPPA that as a creator you're going to get sued or fined, let me suggest that you're overreacting.
Mhm.
I really don't think that's in the cards. When you really look at it beyond the surface, that's not what's going on here. Now, I could be wrong. I was wrong once, you know, and whatever, but I really don't think I am here on this issue. The other thing that I did see today that was kind of bugging me, I won't spend a lot of time on it, but by now we probably all seen or are aware of, yeah, PewDiePie got broken into.
Yeah, I heard about that. That's sad.
They broke into his house and stole a bunch of stuff, and there are those few of the decidedly left-leaning side of Twitter that are like, well, I just can't get excited about it because he's rich. Why does that matter? Now, I'm not rich. And unless something fantastic happens, some rich uncle that I don't know leaves me money or something, I'm never going to be rich. But I don't hate on other people because they are rich. You know, hey, I got enough to worrying about my own stuff instead of theirs. And theft is bad regardless. I don't understand that mindset. I do not understand that mindset at all. That just because he's rich and has a lot of money, that we shouldn't be upset that he got broke into. Theft is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Period. End of discussion.
It's still a violation of his privacy and his safety too. Like it's honestly not just about the stuff. I mean, he did lose some valuables that were like memories for him, so that's tragic. But it's also just the fact that now he's living in a home that he doesn't feel safe in because somebody just entered without his permission when he wasn't around to do anything.
Yeah.
And honestly, some of it is his own responsibility. Like, if he's going away, he should probably hire somebody to watch his house and set up lights so that it looks like somebody's home at all times and things like that. But like, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what level you're at. The fact that he doesn't feel safe in his own home right now is enough of a reason for him to be upset.
Exactly. And Mr. Dax has a similar, it isn't just about the property. Someone still entered your home, which is a huge hit to your sense of security. And that is very real, folks. If you've never been broken into, you wouldn't know. But I remember back in the late 70s, my parents and sisters and I come home from church one night, and we came in, and we'd been broken into. They stole our TV, stole some other stuff and everything. And, things are replaceable. You can replace them. But it's a lot harder to shake that you no longer feel safe in your own home now. You don't feel safe in your own home now. And you wonder, okay, they broke in while we're not here. What happens if they break in while we are here? Or whatever. And the dog that we had at the time, who was not a huge dog, a medium-sized dog, they beat him with a snow shovel. So when we come home, and we know that because the snow shovel was inside, outside, and the dog was cowered in the corner, just shaking, the poor little thing.
Poor baby.
And he was very protective. I guarantee he went after him. Guaranteed he went after him. He was a very protective dog. But they beat him with that snow shovel, and just your loss of sense of security and the violation of your sense of privacy, that's a lot harder to get back than the things that you lost in the actual break-in.
Yeah, it's a lot of sleepless nights. Like, you don't go to sleep afterwards because you're just like, well, what if they come back when I'm sleeping?
Yeah.
It's a huge thing. Like, I feel bad for him. Like, I think that's terrible. And the thing is he is a target. It's one of those things, like, he really has to relook at how he goes about it, because even to the point of how he streams, like, it's one thing to show off that you've got good stuff, but you have to be secure in every in where people find you, and
And
you
I'm
know,
not even a PewDiePie fan,
Mhm.
folks. I don't care for his content. I don't watch him. I have. That's how I know I don't care for it.
I like his more sincere conversations. Like when
But
he does videos where he's just talking about the community or things that are going on, or he just has a real conversation. Those videos of his are amazing because it's just a regular guy sitting down having a conversation with you. If I were to say anything as that part of a fandom, Bloodwing, those are the videos that you look up.
yeah,
The rest of it is just his major content is it is geared towards probably preteens.
yeah,
So I mean that's not going to be for everything. A lot of it is screechy. A lot of it, like his vocal tones go really high a lot of the time. So I can't watch all of his stuff either. But like his real conversations, there's a real reason why a lot of people have respect for him, or why there's been so much movement to forgive him for mistakes, because when he has those conversations, he's just like you and I having a conversation right now. And that's something that you don't see from a lot of the big YouTubers. Like you don't see that from a Logan Paul. You don't see that from you know even Markiplier. Like you get that from Markiplier. That's why I don't mind him.
yeah.
But it's not enough to make me a full-time fan. Like I sub to him, and I am sub to him just because I just wanted him to stay number one.
Yeah.
It was one of those things where it's like
But my
against corporate, I wanted him to be number one
my
over
point
corporate.
is
Yeah.
though that
Yeah.
I'm not out here holding up PewDiePie just because I'm a fan, because I'm not. I just think it's disgusting because theft is theft, and it's wrong, and it's wrong on so many levels. And to be of the attitude that, oh well, I just can't care because they're rich,
Mhm.
is just pitiful to me. That's just pitiful.
The thing that they brought up too was the time a couple years ago where Kim Kardashian was robbed in Paris. And here's the thing: I've never liked Kim Kardashian. Like I
No.
have a little bit more respect for her because she's used the system with Trump to get her auntie out of jail. I was like, you go, girl, but I don't like her. Like I've never been a fan of hers. I see her as a plastic Armenian Barbie doll. But at the same time, the way she was robbed was terrifying. What she described in her story, like she was held up at gunpoint in the place that she was staying, and they stole her jewelry. So, for one thing, yes, it was a lot of money. Like the jewelry that was stolen was a lot of dollars lost. So, financially, even if she is rich, even if she can replace that, that's still terrible. Like that's still somebody stealing your car. Okay.
Yeah.
And two, at gunpoint. So this guy could have killed her.
Yeah, and what that does to you psychologically, even if there was never some individual with a gun right up in your face, even if it's like a PewDiePie situation where somebody breaks into your house and takes these things, that loss of security is very real. You all know J Kid. We've talked about him earlier, and he used to work for the same gas stations chain that Mama Minnie did. And he worked the overnight shift, and he got robbed. I don't know if it was at gunpoint, but it was implied that there was a gun involved. And the guy pushed him around, and he stayed with the job for a while, but then he had to leave because he did not feel safe. He just didn't feel safe anymore. And I can understand that. I wished he didn't have had another job to go to, but that's a whole nother kettle of fish. The loss of security is extremely real, and I wouldn't wish that on my worst enemy.
Yeah.
If I honestly, this is the honest truth. If I heard that Michael Rowlands, who is the person that I come up with that I have the least amount of respect for on YouTube, Michael Rowlands. If I heard that he got robbed and lost all his stuff, I would feel the same way that I do about it with PewDiePie. Nobody should have to go through that.
I agree. Yeah. It's just easy compassion. It's like I said, like I don't mind that people don't agree with me on the argument I had a couple weeks ago on Twitter. I mean, I took a break from it because I realized that nobody, like some people were liking my comment because they understood what compassion I was talking about. But this nurse, in all honesty, she's an idiot for the way she posted her video, but I understood the joke she was making was directed at people who fake their sickness. And
Oh,
then
I've seen that video. Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
and then you go in and she's wearing medical tech gear, and the thing is it's the same outfit as a nurse's outfit. So everyone's like, "Oh, she's a horrible nurse. Could you imagine if she talked to a patient like that?" And I was like, if you were faking it, I wouldn't blame her for talking to you like that. In all honesty, I wish she could talk to you like that, because if you're faking it, then you're wasting her time. You're going to the wrong doctor. If you're faking illness, then you need to see a shrink. That's a different illness. But the thing is she shouldn't have used her uniform. I'm just like saying, you know what? I understand why you're complaining. I understand that, you know, you just want to make a joke out of it. This is probably something that she's more used to sharing with fellow nurses than actually doing online. And somebody probably was like, "Oh, this is hilarious. Post it online. Everyone will get it." And then you realize that most people don't understand what it is that she's saying. And it's one of those things as a customer service representative that I understand a lot of people forget that nurses are also customer service. And so while a lot of nurses get treated very well because they do an important job, like they, you know, help heal sick people, they take care of sick
Tell you
people.
what, the nurses in there on my surgery were great because
You know,
they put up with my jokes.
you know, they do a really good service, and like you say, like I said, like a lot of people are really good to them. But you know what? I've been in hospitals where the nurses were treated like absolute crap. You know, so this idea that they don't say things about their clients or complain about their clients like they aren't regular human beings who have grief with people that they work with. Yeah. It's like on a professional level, yes, you keep that to the side. You keep it to the backroom talk with your coworkers. But you know what? There's the odd stand-up comedian that'll bring up a joke. And the reason that you make a joke is kind of the truth. And the thing is you can't make jokes about the truth anymore. And that's the fact of the matter. You cannot make true ass jokes because too many people are like, "Oh, well, this person is going to murder people because she's clearly dangerous if she thinks this way about patients." And I'm like, okay, do you think that the customer service people that you treat like shit every time you go in, "Miss, I need to speak to your manager, bitch. I don't care what genitals you have," because that goes all around the board. But I hate to break it to you, but even those managers will talk shit about you once you leave because you're a piece of shit.
Yeah, often is the case. And yes, cynical Lindsay, exactly. It's like what happened with Alyssa Milano. I vehemently disagree with her on a lot of things, but I felt bad for her when she lost her house in the major wildfire that happened a while back. Yeah, exactly. Just because I disagree with you on how you feel socially and politically about things doesn't mean that I wish bad things on you.
Exactly. And that's what I was trying to explain to these people, that like, you know, out of all the horrible people that exist right now, the ones that lynch people online are actually more of the terror than anything else. Because like, look at this lady, like you guys are sitting there crying for her head on a spike and then saying she's going to kill people. She lacks compassion. And I'm like, I don't think people understand what that word means anymore. Compassion means that, you know, there's at least 10 steps in your brain where you've thought from the other person's perspective on what's going on in their life and why they're deciding to do what they're doing. That's what compassion actually is, because in that compassionate moment, like if they've been hurt or in any sense of the word, that's literally in your mind. The 10 steps of, okay, I can feel the pain that they were in when they got hurt. You know, I can feel the limb getting cut off or something like that. You know, and it's every sense of the word. Like it's to the point where emotionally you understand it.
Yeah. Cynic says anyone who is offended by stuff nurses say has never hung around the nurses station after hours. Dark and offensive humor is pretty much part of the position. And I think that's probably in the medical profession overall. I've heard that before.
Yeah.
And I know Cynic would know in his physical condition.
Like even from my end, like I said, my understanding from her level is to the point where like one of the things I had to do in my job was I had to skewer chickens. So I have to take a metal pole and stick it up the rectum of a bird up to its throat. You know, so the amount of jokes that I had just for the things I did to these poor
there
birds.
It's back.
You know, there's no way that I'm doing that kind of a job and my humor isn't dark. Oh, you're flickering again, I think. Or maybe it's me.
No, I seen it. It's back now.
Okay.
Even in my job, we do the same thing. I mean, there'll somebody come in and they act kind of weird, and as soon as they leave, we're all like, "Did you see that guy?" and making fun of them. That happens in every profession, you know.
Like there was this one time where we were taking out the last load of chickens, and I just had my cell phone in my pocket. I wasn't supposed to have it, but it was one of those things like I just come off a break and I was just going to run up real quick afterwards and put it away. And so this stack of chickens that we took out, well, each bird had a different stage of cracked where the skin was. So it kind of like, even to the point where he'd line them up on the table for us to package, they looked like they were in stages of undressed. So I took a picture of it for the intentions of making a meme of like chicks in the stage of undress, you know? And I was just like, if I could have just had two little cone cups, like,
audio, Jen.
the
There
ones
we
used
go.
for snow cones.
We lost your audio there for a minute.
For me?
Yes.
Oh, you missed my story.
It was just for about 5 seconds.
Okay, so we're up to the point where I wanted to get two cones, snow cones, so I could put it on a bird so it looked like Madonna.
Yeah. I saw that video. I thought people were really, really overreacting with it. Are you so easily offended, folks? Come on. It was just a joke.
Mm-hmm.
It was a joke. You know, and I'm sure that they have to deal with that day in and day out. I cannot imagine the hypochondriacs that the medical profession has to deal with on a daily basis.
Mm-hmm.
And it has to build up on you at some point. You know, it has to.
It's actually something that I pointed out to a guy. I was just like, I kind of can't help wondering if the reason that you're so offended is because you think that she's talking about you.
Yeah.
Do you think that she's talking about you? Because she might be if you're freaking out this much. Because you are literally doing the social version of what she's complaining about, which is a hypochondriac, someone blowing things out of proportion, somebody taking something completely out of context, somebody who completely doesn't understand what's being spoken about, and you're just so offended that you're willing to get somebody out of their job. Yeah. You are the person that she's talking about. So maybe you are offended for a reason, because you are exactly the person.
If I was an individual that was easily offended, I right now I would hide myself in my house, never go out, with the lights off, you know, cowering in a corner, because I'm everything that the internet hates right now. I'm a white male. I'm a boomer, and we all know that, you know, we're at the height of that okay boomer thing meme. I'm straight. You know, I'm a redneck. And oh my gosh, there's tons of joke out there about redneck. I'm all the thing that the internet hates. And you know what? When somebody makes a joke about, you know, one of the things that I am, whether it's a white male or whatever, I laugh.
BJ's like, your humor has a lighter setting. I thought it only came at dark. I'm like, I don't know half the time anymore. It's like,
yeah, it's like your toaster. You can set the.
It's like, I don't know when the last time I had like jokes. I mean, I do tell them. I like sarcastic jokes. I really like sarcasm, and I do like dark humor, because I think it's honestly, it's the truth. It's just how a lot of people deal with stuff, and I've always dealt with it a lot better with dark humor. It's like, even when I'm mad, if I'm mad at something or I'm scared about something, I probably have a grin on my face. Yeah, because it's just how
folks, I don't tell them here, you know, because it really doesn't fit the stream. But some of my favorite jokes are dead baby jokes. And if you've never delved into dead baby jokes, they can get pretty gruesome. I'll give you an example. And this is one of the lighter ones. Jen, do you know what the difference between a truckload of dead babies and a truckload of ball bearings are?
What?
You can't unload the ball bearings with a pitchfork. And it just goes downhill from there. Trust me.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
only dead baby joke I have is this meme that my brother created for me that I don't share with anyone because he's technically in the picture, but he's got a picture of himself and one of his kids' babies, and the kid's just wrapped in a blanket but put into it's like a brownie pan.
Right.
And my brother's sitting there with like a butter knife and a fork, and he's just pretending like he's gonna dig in, but he had this expression on his face that reminded me of the bad guy from Popeye. Like his neighbor, the one that kept trying to steal his wife.
Bluto
Yeah,
or Brutus.
yeah. So I used what's it called, paintbrush to paint a little beard on him. So it looks like Pluto eating a baby. Yeah, Pluto.
Yeah. I love old Popeye cartoons. Of course, good luck trying to find some of them because they're not PC.
I don't know. I mean,
Yeah.
look at Popeye. I'm like, did you think he was? I mean, he's deformed in every sense of the word.
Yeah. There's even an episode of Popeye where he eats marijuana. They don't call it marijuana. They call it, what was it? They call it wacky weed or crazy or something. But it was, it was put in his can of spinach instead of spinach. Bluto, I think it was, replaced his spinach with it.
Devil Fruit has a good joke for you.
Okay. How many dead babies does it take to paint a garage? Depends on how hard you throw them. So yeah, folks, I have a dark sense of humor. I mean, come on. Even if a joke doesn't appeal to you, don't get offended at it. It's just not your type of humor.
See,
Okay.
it's kind of like last Sunday when Scribe did his stream on feminist birthing, how feminists would like you to go about having children, which sounds really like, oh, just use alternative, but just in case you have like bad things happen, have an escape plan. And you're just like, well, I think everybody does that.
Yeah.
Everybody looks into everything, and it's just based off of what you think is the most convenient and cheapest for you, in all honesty. Whatever you can afford, whatever's the most comfortable. But I'm just in the chat being an asshole. So I'm like, so feminist explains how to give birth to a coat hanger.
Okay.
I was like, because there are no feminists who are like, yes, go for the children, have the children. They're the part of the pro-life that are about abortions. They're not about the pro-life that's like, okay, if you want to have your kid, like, let's look at alternatives for how you can do that don't rape a man's wallet and, doesn't completely screw you over. Let's look into those alternatives. No, feminists don't do that. They look into coat hangers.
Oh, Sean, how do you make a dead baby float? 3 scoops of ice cream and a scoop of dead baby. We're all going to hell. Cynical. Yeah, I agree. Popeye was one of my favorite cartoons as a kid too. In fact, in the room that I had as a little kid, we only moved once when I was a kid, and it was next door. We just literally moved next door. We didn't even need a truck. Everybody just picked up all the furniture and stuff and walked it into the next door. We moved next door. But the house I lived into up until I was 10, in my room on the wall, because I've used to be a pretty good artist till I damaged my hand years ago. That's a whole nother story. But I had drew a picture of Popeye on the wall, and Mom actually didn't yell at me for it because it was a good picture of Popeye. So, yeah. I enjoyed Popeye cartoons, but they're not PC anymore, because the depictions of black people and depiction of the Japanese during war period, and
that was more Disney than it was Popeye, though, wasn't it?
Popeye did too.
Oh yeah, I'm sure they did, because
Popeye did too, and yes, Disney did, and so instead of taking into context of what period of time we're talking about and how people felt, no, that's got to go. It's not PC.
Never mind the amount of white characters that are cartoon characters that were depicted as like, mentally handicapped or stupid, or like just regular guys that were dumb. Like, anytime that there was a bodyguard in any cartoon back in the day, there was like both bodyguards were stupid, but there was short guy, tall guy.
Yeah.
Always a short guy, tall guy, and it was always like a duo between who was like this.
Yeah.
You were always debating on who was actually the smarter of the two.
Folks, the racist depictions of the Japanese in Disney and Popeye cartoons and whatever other cartoons they appeared in, let's not forget that happened in a time that the Japanese had bombed Pearl Harbor. They were not our favorite people as a nation. You got to take it into context. Easily offended bunch of snowflakes. I swear to goodness.
Functional. What's worse than finding a dead baby in a toilet? Finding 3 dead babies in a toilet. What's worse than finding 3 dead babies in a toilet? Finding a dead baby in 3 toilets.
Oh, functional. And yes, Mr. Dax, it was wartime propaganda. It absolutely was. There's no denying it, And yes, we look back at those and they're offensive today, and especially the depictions of black people, or it can be offensive. But things like that you have to take in context of the time that it come out. I'm not a fan of the banning of the movie Song of the South.
Yeah,
I'm not. It's a shame because there's a lot of good things in that movie. There's some good songs in that movie. But
and the thing with that song, like as much as they hate that song, it was a good song. Yeah. It was a good song. Like the guy who sang it, like I can't remember his name, but like he was fantastic. I feel like, okay, well, maybe at the time the topics weren't good, but like how about his work? You're throwing his work under the bus too. How about his history?
And my favorite of all time cartoons is not immune either. I love the original Johnny Quest. I will sit and watch him today if I can. But we all know his buddy was Haji.
Yeah.
Good luck finding an uncut version for sale of the original Johnny Quest now, because some of the depictions of Haji were seen as being racist, so they've been cut out. I'm like, seriously? It's just anyway, though, we are getting close to the end of it, and mostly because of the restrictions being put on me by StreamYards of only 20 hours of streams a month.
Yeah.
We are getting toward the end of it, so here's where I'm going to say thank you to the chat for coming out. Thank you for supporting this stream. Thank you for those that were able to go a step further and make the donations. It will go to good use, trust me. Thank you, Jen, for joining at talk about last minute.
Yeah, I was like, oh, he has invited me. Oh, okay.
I just couldn't decide who I wanted to come on today, and you were the first person that I seen pop up in chat, and I'm like, okay. So I sent you the invite, but thank you for coming out on short notice. Is there anything that you want to shout out?
So we're actually doing another stream not too long after this one. So we start that one at 5 p.m. Eastern time, or 3 p.m. if you live in the West like I do. And that'll be Functional and I'm not sure if we've got Blind Girl joining us because I haven't talked to her yet. It's one of those things where I talked to Elwin with her about it. So I might have to message her after this. But I was like, if it wasn't so last minute for you, and I know you like, I get the dates confused on when you pick up your grandkids. I was going to invite you to, but
well, since I've started back to work, I pick them up in the mornings every day instead of there are no afternoons. So
okay, well, I mean, if you're not busy or if you're not too tired, because you might want to break and take a nap or something. I don't know.
Well, I do have. Which brings me to me.
Oh, yeah.
I do have my premiere today. So, yeah, it'd be tough for me to make it. 5:30. So if you're not watching, or if you want to watch it at the same time of the stream, go watch Jen's stream. But if you can, I would appreciate seeing anybody that would like to show up at the premiere at 5:30 of episode 20 of Redneck Trek. I think it's a good one. I enjoyed it.
I'm gonna have to watch that one later though. Like, so I might see if
Sure.
I can cheat and see if you can like just DM me it to me on Twitter or something.
Absolutely.
Just because.
As for Redneck Radio, there will be a stream Thursday, 2:30 Eastern Standard Time. So I don't work on this Thursday. I work tomorrow, then I'm off Thursday, Friday. So be on the lookout for that.
Oh, that sounds good. Like today is kind of squishy because like I'm doing this stream afterwards with Functional, and then from there I'm supposed to be picked up by my brother's friend because like we're kind of on a transit problem because I don't have a car, so we have to go get some errands done, and then after that I have to do I'm supposed to stream the Wexit thing, which the last thing I'm going to say for my end on today, because I'm definitely not going to do anything tomorrow, is when I do that stream, I do it with Stardew. So I do have a multiplayer open during that period. It's just I'm one of those people that I like to have my hands full doing something when I'm listening to people. So when I'm streaming that, I have an opening for 2 more people on that game. Unless I can build another one. I know you don't play that one, Blood. I mean, if you ever do decide to play that one, like say you get a freebie or something, or it's really cheap and you just decide to go for it, let me know and I'll bring you on because it is fun.
Okay.
But it's like I said, you don't necessarily have to be part of like the conversation for the Wexit because like I don't do that part of it. I only talk if they're saying something that I'm like, you know what, I'm going to say something here.
Yep. But as for me, be on the lookout if you can. The premiere for a Redneck Trek is today at 5:30. There will be a stream Thursday at 2:30, and hopefully, if things work out for me, I'll be back to my regular premiere time for Redneck Trek on Sunday at 5:30 Eastern Time. That's my hope. Yeah. So, anyway, we are at the end of 2 hours, and I've got to conserve my time. They're timing me. So until then, get out of my yard.
See you later, guys.